everyone. It's John Galante, president of AE Ventures, and I'm here to introduce a brand new webcast series collaboration that we have with the Home Technology Association. The title of the webcast series is The Pulse on Luxury Home Technology. Our partners are the Home Technology Association, and their CEO, Josh Christian, is going to be the fearless leader. He's going to be my co-star on these episodes, so to speak. Let me just give you a little bit of a high level on what our goals are and what the shape of these webcasts will be going forward. I think there's basically two buckets. It's about the wows, and it's about how do we deliver them. So when we say the wows, we're talking about wow projects, wow designs, systems integrations, the experiences, the benefits for the owners and users. When we're talking about how do we collaborate to deliver, there are a lot of different dimensions to that. I wish it were one answer, but it's not one answer. There are a lot of different variations on the theme here, and it's also always evolving, right? Because the end user is evolving, because the technology is evolving, because tastes and trends are evolving. With that, Josh, I'll turn it over to you for color commentary or anything that I missed on that.
Technology to many in the building design trades is kind of a black box, maybe a little confusing, maybe a little anxiety inducing, but this whole series here is to demystify that and share some best practices. You meet some of the top people in this industry. And I've been in this industry since the 90s, and I've seen like when you have a great build team and a design team, and they get together, there's respect amongst each other, magic happens, clients are ecstatic, they're happy, they refer friends. That's what we all want. We want to make happy clients, and this is going to help do that. So I'm really excited about this series.
Tell us about Home Technology Association. How long has it been around? What are your key deliverables to your members and your members, partners and users? What's that all about?
So we started in 2017. So the Home Technology Association exists to help homeowners and design and build professionals find and differentiate and locate the top home technology integration firms out there, the folks that put in all this low voltage technology in our homes. It's an interesting industry. It's unlike many other trades like electrical and plumbing, where there are standards and it takes a long time to get up to a certain level of professionalism. There's journeymen and licenses required. The low voltage industry is kind of the Wild West. Most of the states in the United States do not even have a low voltage license requirement. Anybody could say they're a technology integrator. But interestingly and kind of sadly, only about 10% of the industry performs at the level that builders want to be engaging with or homeowners want to be engaging with. The true professionals, of which we have two amazing ones on here today. And for the builders that are hearing this, this is the type of integrator you want to work with. And our association set that standard, defined it, because it was never a defined standard of what does a great technology integrator look like. And then the top integrators can apply, go through our process to see if they meet that cut. These two are excellent examples of that. And the reason we do that is so builders, architects, interior designers, and homeowners have a great technology experience on a company that is professional, knows what they're doing, and will service that client not just for the original installation, but for years on down the road, and make sure that their technology is serving them in their lifestyle.
In the core competencies that you are certifying on, is that a mix of technical and business process?
Yes, there are three main pillars for certification. So broadly speaking, their technical ability. Do they know how? Are they trained? Are they certified on the products that they sell and install? So they really know what they're doing. The second one, and this is a biggie, the customer service and aftercare. So again, this is a very different trade, right? Like a plumber, electrician, they do their work, they're done, they're on to the next project. They never really have to come back and service things unless there's a water leak or something, but that's kind of rare. But in the technology field, customer service is a much more intensive thing. Technology shifts, as was said by you. It evolves constantly. In a couple of years from now, we'll be talking about technologies we can't even think about today. And integrators are on top of this. They're refreshing technology. They're fixing the little glitches that inevitably happen with technology. And also the reputation, which talks some about that soft skills. Are they good people to deal with? Are they collaborative? Are they humble? And so those are the three main table stakes that HTA certification entails.
Just to give folks a sample of some of the potential topics that we're looking at addressing over the next many months, there's a list. I'm not going to read them out loud, but you can see it's a mix of how do we work together, how do we collaborate among all the trades, builder, integrator, plus, and then also some of the specific applications and integrations that are really delivering for clients out there. On to the feature event, which is our first episode, Lux Tech lineup, the integrator as quarterback for all the trades. Along with Josh and myself, we have Tom Clancy, who is Executive Vice President of Audio Command Systems in the New York City area, and Tyson Rabani, founder and CEO of QAV, which is, I think, stands for Quality Audio and Video in the Colorado market. Guys, can you each take a minute or a minute and a half to introduce yourselves and your companies? Let's start with Tom.
So I'm the Executive Vice President of Audio Command Systems. ACS was founded almost 50 years ago. Actually, we will celebrate our 50th anniversary this coming January. So 1976 is when Robert Kaufman and Jonathan Flam founded the company. We are a full system integration company headquartered in New York with offices in the South Florida market, as well as the West Coast in LA. And we are a true technology integration company. So we don't look at it as the days of being a speaker company, although the name Audio Command may intimate as such. The company and the industry has evolved so much over the last 50 years as technology has. So we've gone from being the speaker guys to being the home technology professional. And we take it from an approach of looking at it from an aesthetic standpoint as much as we do as a functionality one, in so much that we need to understand that in the luxury homes that we service, most people don't want to see the stuff that we install. As much as we want to see big badass speakers all over the place and killer TVs all over, the design build community typically do not want to see that. They want it concealed, they want to know it's working, but they don't want to know it's there. So that's where we take a really thoughtful approach as to how we design and engineer our systems to ensure that they're not taking away or degrading from the aesthetic of the home.
Tyson, how about you?
So I'm Tyson Rabani. I founded QAV in 2006. So we are approaching and knocking on the door of being in business for 19 years. In the last few decades, I mean, so much has changed from a technology perspective. While we go by QAV today, QAV does stand for Quality Audio Video, and our roots are in audio and video. But look how much has changed. I mean, we've got lighting and shading and energy solutions that we're all involved now. What we bring to the market is our commitment to being design first. That's why I love this topic as well so much, because by being design first means that we have to be very mindful of the integrity of the architecture, the build, the interior design, and upholding that by not adding to technology that's going to distract from that. So we work really, really hard at providing solutions that are going to tie in and make the space great. It's so impactful for all of us that are involved, and thousands of hours go into these projects. And we're really here to be great partners. And so this topic really touches on that. So thanks for having me.
And Tyson, what's your geographical footprint for service? Are you all of Colorado? Are you Rocky Mountains? Are you then some?
Yeah, so we do cover Colorado, and that has seemingly ever expanded. And so what we say is if we can provide value to the project, then we will likely take it on. And the real interesting thing about that is a lot of our clients do have, multiple properties, and some of those certainly end up in other states. So when we've done something for them in Colorado, in most cases, that they've loved so much, they generally do take our team to the next project. In Arizona, we've gone to California and Florida and other places because they want things to be the exact same, and they know and trust us at that point. So great question.
We're going to kick off with Josh providing some key concepts on Lux Tech collaboration. And then we're going to get granular and go through several facets of collaboration or specific trade interconnects. And the focus there is going to be with Tom and Tyson. We will come back for a group discussion on the job site and this idea of documentation and long-term support and the role that integrators play there. And then we'll wrap up and thank folks. So that's what we're going to cover. Josh, I'm going to turn it over to you for some high-level concepts on LuxTech collaboration before we get granular.
Yeah, key word here is collaboration. And you've heard already from Tom and Tyson when they're introducing themselves, their collaborative nature of their firms. When I mentioned at the beginning that integrators are a very different trade, they really have three phases. And we're talking a lot today about the first one, and that is design and consultation. So there's the design and consultation phase. Then there's the contracting phase, right, where they actually install the products. And then third is that service and aftercare, which is an ongoing phase. And typically we'll have even like a service department within that integration firm. As we'll get into in the granularity, there are a lot of different trades that the low voltage integrator is touching, such as pool and spa control, security. In Colorado, you probably even have heated driveways and things, the de-ice things. There's a lot of different folks being spoken to, line voltage, electrical, HVAC contractors, and there's a lot of coordination that needs to happen. And having a collaborative effort from folks that design and engineer, collaborate, which is what integrators do. And importantly, instead of just reading plans, they're actually creating plans off of the architect set that serve as a basis of collaboration for all. And this is something really key to know because some builders have not worked with an integrator of this level. They don't even know that this is even possible. It could be done so well by an integrator that really is design first.
Yeah. For a lot of builders, the relationship is integrator looking at a bird's eye of the floor plan and putting stickums for various locations on there. So we all know that there's a lot better practices. Let's go ahead and dig in at the very front end, which is that consultation piece, as you put it, Josh. I termed it as client interface.
So this is arguably the most important phase of the project because it's understanding what it is the end user, the homeowner wants. So, and that's such a key component because we have to understand that once everything is done, the house is built, the photos are taken, everybody's done their appointments to it, a family of human beings needs to live in this space. So we need to understand how they want their family to interact with the technology within the space. So during this phase, this is really just a kind of get to know you because it is such a long-term relationship that we have with our clients. To Josh's earlier point, we don't just install and walk away. For our clients and the level of homes that we service, we have multi-decade relationships with them because no matter what happens in the technology space, something will go wrong. Not that we're going to plan for it, but it's just the inevitability of any technology, that hardware that we have. So it's a matter of developing that trust and that relationship with the end user. So this first phase is arguably the most important because you're not selling boxes. You're never selling a product. You're selling yourself. You're selling your services. You're selling your company. More importantly, you're selling your ability to support it when it's all said and done. So getting this initial conversation started is really more of it's like beginning to date somebody, right? You want to be able to understand who they are, what motivates them, what they're looking for in arguably the most intimate of their spaces, which is their home.
I think this is like so many builders would say, can the integrator install this stuff and make it work? And we all know that's important and it's table stakes. But to me, these soft skills of being able to really interface around even at, kind of the emotional and how does the family operate level is, that's the next order of business for us. And that's where the great integrators are going to have a strong collaboration with the builders. Tyson, get in here and give us your perspective.
With clients, they're not spending the amount of time that we do every day working with this stuff. They're not going to all of the expos that we're going to. They're not talking to everybody about the kind of conversations that we're having. So they're coming into this, and even if they've built another house, I had a client that built, a very large property, but it was, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And he walked in and goes, "Oh my gosh, like everything's changed." So it's kind of like you just have to have, a lot of sensitivity. You have to have a lot of compassion to who's walking in and where are they in the journey. And so there's a couple things that we do to help with that process. Josh here on the call with HTA will be very happy to hear that we have fully adopted the HTA checklist. We provide a co-branded checklist. It's a technology assessment form, and we've given that, and we're still rolling it out to all of our design build partners. That is something that we've done for 2025. And what that does is gives the design build partner an opportunity to ask the client before they meet us, what do you think you're interested in? And what might be on your wish list? And it does help establish that before they even walk in the door and meet us. But B, more importantly, it helps them at least understand, oh my gosh, I might be talking to this technology integrator about lighting and lighting fixtures or solar and battery and wellness. What is going on? And so it just helps set that barometer of what's possible. The second thing that we do to help with this client journey, also new for 2025, the effectiveness of the HTA budget calculator. Admittedly, we've actually evolved it ever so slightly just to tailor it a bit more to QAV, but nevertheless, the concept is there. And what we're doing is we are using that as a formula to help the client put the bumpers on the bowling lane and establish what do they think they want, what do they think their budget is, and where do they think their budget can go. All of these steps have taken place before they met us, and within the first hour of being with us at a meeting in our Experience Center showroom. Then we take them on a tour of the showroom, and we're showing them all the options and everything they've said that they are interested in on scope and on budget. It is very brand agnostic. We try really hard. To Tom's point, it is a black box at the end of the day. They're going to either walk into a room or they're going to push a button and they're going to expect something to happen. And let's have fun with it. We do back that with amazing experiences along the way.
Guys, both real quickly, and Josh, you can get in here if you want, like, when does this happen? Like, have the home plans already been drawn up before you're brought in? Or are you brought in during the initial ideation?
I'll start off by saying how it should be done. Right. So this is a mission the Home Technology Association is on with the build and design communities. And for the builders, let's go first to the architect. The architect's creating the plans. So ideally at the schematic design phase, like you said, John, at the very early stage, because every integrator has been on a project and every architect has to admit this has happened as well, where late stage in the build, there's compromises that are baked into the home, like the mechanical room sizing wasn't correct, or that TV doesn't fit in this room, or the dimensions of this, if there's going to be a media room or a dedicated theater, aren't the right size, the sight lines don't work. There's all sorts of little gotchas that happen when the technology is ignored. And if the technology was part of that conversation at that schematic design phase, the integrator, again, being the consultant, the collaborator, once we find out what the client wants, the integrator has so much useful information to give back to them that's going to prevent those issues, those potential change orders or baked in compromises that happen when the technology was ignored. So schematic design phase is ideal. But now talking to the builder, how many times do you get a set of plans where all the low voltage has been figured out? Probably very, very rare. So for you will want to engage the Tysons and the Toms of the world out there before you get your framing, electrical, and HVAC bids. Because if you don't, then often those bids will have to be revised, or there'll be change orders and project delays because the technology often will affect those things. So that's the first step, because what Tyson and Tom in their drawings and engineering documents will tell you is, here's how much heat the components are going to put out. Here's the electrical requirements and where they need to be. The electricians and the HVAC people love knowing that up front.
When you think about the early pre-stages, the technology in the homes touches just about every other subcontractor in the house, from the framers to the electricians to the finish guys to the painters, plumbers, HVAC. Every single element of what we supply in the initiatives and the solutions that we provide to the home are directly tied into every other trade in the house. So the sooner that companies like ours get onto the project, the easier it really does become for everybody, because there is a component of technology, whether it's a network connection or it's an actual framing element, some level of what we do will have an impact on every other trade in the house.
This is probably one of the key pieces in the playbook in terms of the actual execution, which is the design and engineering stuff. Tyson, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, you bet. This is actually a perfect segue. I mean, just coming off of the last conversation that we just had, you've got Josh with the Home Technology Association, you've got John with Builder Innovator, you got Tom and me on the call, all telling people that you really cannot bring us in early enough. And this is why. Because the earlier we're involved, typically the more options and the more cost effective it's going to be. And the later that we're involved, typically the fewer options and potentially the more expensive it's going to be. And it is a constant piece of education. A handful of clients bringing us in when they're shopping for land, but really, at least at the design doc stage before we hit CDs, because at that point we can tap into this category. We can add all of our layers in coordination with the architect layers. And that these days is going to include lighting, which will include fixtures. It will include controls. It will include keypads and switch points. And those might be line voltage or low voltage. So this is extremely important to have that fully coordinated on a architectural set. If we're talking about shades, where are they going to go? It's a physical mass. Can it go into a pocket? Can it go into the truss? Can it go into the windowsill? Does the client want blackout? Should we account for that behind a window trim detail? Certainly with energy solutions, we are consulting and providing options so that homes are at least ready for battery and ready for solar, if not getting them on day one. To John's point earlier, audio and video is still extremely important to our trade. Some clients want things to be completely invisible. They want to be aperture matched. This stuff has to come into play at least at rough end, and sooner the better. Meaning if it's on the design docs, it's fully coordinated. Everybody knows where everything's going. And that's before the sticks are going up. That's before the foundation's going in. And that is a well-coordinated plan with a well-coordinated set. And these should fully live in and alongside MEP plans, the architectural plans for the project.
As I said earlier, we touch every bit of this project. So making sure that our coordinated sets reflect that level of interaction with the other trades is mission critical here. Often overlooked, and we see this a lot, are the motorized window treatments and the requirement for a back box for those, the enclosure for the shades. That has to be factored into the overall window trim detail. And then the question becomes, do you require what I like to refer to as vampire blackout? And if you do, then now we're talking about getting side channels cut into the sills or a sill return so that now we have 100% blackout. And it's things like that while we're designing projects typically on paper, people aren't often thinking about the minutia and the level of detail that is required.
So this design level and schematic is more architect, early ideation sort of stuff before we're getting to the trade specific plans. And you guys want to be trading drawings at that point, right? And do you initiate that, or does that come at you? Who does it come at you from?
That's all of us together. I mean, this is the educational piece, and go Josh with the HTA, make it happen. We're trying our best. It's really a huge challenge, honestly. It is a matter of education. It is a matter, you got to have compassion for our design build partners. Do they even know what the latest and greatest is actually happening in our industry? I mean, look how fast lighting took off. Look how fast these things take off. And then before you know it, we've got all these things to offer. And so we have to go back. We have to put a massive amount of time, energy, and attention into letting them know and educating them so that they're aware that they can bring us in and we can co-pilot these certain conversations with these clients.
Working with architects, very closely related, although that is a very particular profession.
Yeah, so having the relationship with the architects is the key because it's their vision that we're bringing to life. So often what we'll do at ACS is we begin with a design services agreement where we're not specifically talking about product. We'll design every system initially to be completely product agnostic. At some point, as we get further down the rabbit hole, sure, we have to start making some decisions as far as back boxes and framing and what have you that are product specific. But our initial conversations with the architects are, let's just get this whole thing mapped out on paper first. And let's get an understanding of our space requirements, the MEP requirements, the framing nuances that we need, just the amount of real estate that's required. If you go back and you think about the old days of, we would get a credenza underneath the television. That's it. There's your AV space. Go ahead, make it work. Our mechanical spaces now are rivaling any of the back-end MEP spaces, whether it's from the electrician side or HVAC, because we are the conduit through which the rest of the house operates. So we require proper sizing, proper ventilation, proper space for our equipment to not only just work, but also to be serviced and maintained long-term.
What kind of time requirement is there on the architect side of things to pull this sort of coordination off with you guys? I mean, how much back and forth is there? Is this over several days, a matter of weeks? Are they putting hours and hours into this?
Well, I think that's really depends upon the scale and the scope of the project, right? So if you're building a 15,000 square foot home, this process is going to take months. If we're doing a 2,000 square foot apartment in New York City, it might be a little bit quicker, but still the level of detail is required. So it really is dependent upon the scope and the size of the project. Typically, we like to be fully embedded into the DD set when it goes out.
In terms of timing, the architect is certainly going to be one of the most important because they have the ability, based on when they're involved in the project, to bring in other specialty trades, like the technology consultant in this case. Tom mentioned a DSA. We have a design service agreement as well. In QAV's case, I tell all of our design build partners, if we're brought in at CDs or with framings going up versus design docs, in our case, we're not charging any more money for being brought in at design docs. We are here to do the thing, and we're here to do it early, and it actually will require less time from us typically. But to the point of the conversation, it is very scope dependent. In some cases, things are done in days. In other cases, months or even years, following the requirements and the size and scope of the project itself. Another fun fact here that I think is quite interesting, with CEDIA Expo, our industry expo that happens every year, we have taken on the role of bringing in our design and build partners to this expo as a great educational resource. And especially architects have shown more and more interest, as well as the other design build trades. Last year, which felt very busy for us, we had 7 design build partners, and this year we're expecting 27. And that is because the word is getting around. They are talking to each other. I had a builder call me a few weeks ago saying, Tyson, I just want to make sure that QAV is hosting this year. I was like beside myself. Now, the reason I use that as the example is because what we're all trying to do here is the exact same thing. We're on the same mission, which is to bring in awareness to what our industry scope and services possibilities are, and to have the conversation happen early on in the project.
I love this conversation, how it's going, and to maybe state the obvious, but just to put an exclamation point on what we've talked about so far. You can see the level of professionalism, detail, and help that Tom and Tyson provide to a design and build team. The technology systems that are installed are becoming more and more important to all of our lives, right? COVID lockdown kind of taught us that. All of a sudden, we're all stuck in our homes reliant on technology. So even some of the naysayers, my clients don't want tech, that's kind of going away. But it's such a key part, and it's the things that the client uses every day. And to kind of maybe bring the stress level down, and like for the builder going, oh my God, there's all this stuff I got to know. You don't need to know it all. You need a great partner like Tyson and Tom. You lean on them. It's a full-time job for them to stay on top of this industry.
We like to say the builders need to absolutely know about these things at a level, right? They know about all their other systems at a level. They want to be confident in what they're representing, but they need to rely on the integrator for the expertise. Let's keep going. And you mentioned temperature and comfort. I mean, is this all about communicating thermostats, or is there more to the HVAC side of things? And what about water?
The larger the homes, the more advanced these systems are. I think the more important we're at least raising our hand and we're all saying, what is the mechanical system? What is the requirements? And how will temperature be called for? In our industry, we can do it a number of ways. We're not going to change the design of the mechanical system, but we'll either have a thermostat in the room, and that might be plastic, or it could be glass or a cool metal finish, or we could pull that out. We can centrally locate it, and we can, in its place, still put some of those same finishes, a little bit more design focused, or just altogether just put a temperature sensor in. And that might be faux finished. Our role in this is to just ask a few questions and coordinate among the trades. The architect should know what's happening. The mechanical contractor should know what's happening. And certainly the general contractor should know what's happening in addition to us.
What about sensing more than just temperature and quality of air? I mean, we may not develop the full-blown mechanical systems to distribute fresh air and what have you, but we certainly could play a role in monitoring not just temperature, but humidity, freshness of air, of integrating that with control systems, of passing that information along in dashboards in intelligible form to users and even to subcontractors. Where are we on this? Are we gonna go deeper on our integration with the mechanical systems in this regard? Tom, I'm going to give you a shot on this.
So whether or not we go deeper on the integration is very client specific, because you have certain clients that want to know every single nuance of every detail. Then you have others that don't, right? Because everyone looks at it as, oh, well, if something goes wrong, am I not going to be able to control my thermostat or control my air quality? We always like to ensure that any third-party system that we're integrating with will operate as a standalone system, independent of our integration. So at least this way, the client, in the event that if something were to go wrong, not that it's likely, but things happen, there's at least a fallback option, right? And it's planning for those potential issues of really where the rubber meets the road on this, because we want to ensure that we have multiple options. I think the most important thing that we really do look at, especially when we're dealing with the mechanical side, are the potential choke points, because you do have a lot of overlap between what we do as integrators on the mechanical side from HVAC and plumbing, also on the electrical side. And you want to ensure that all of those systems are communicating with each other and they're interoperable. So we need to make sure that we're brought in and speaking with the mechanical team. It has to do with load balancing. We start talking about lighting control systems and how we're going to balance the various panels, the dimming panels. If we start getting into the digital fixtures and the lighting fixture side of the world, how do those play? What are your drivers? What's required for your dimming capability? HVAC becomes its own entity, because if you've got a number of disparate systems that are all needing to communicate with each other, are we looking now into a BMS system so that we have one single unified interface for the client? So there's so many different little bits that the mechanical contractors all touch on, and we're here to kind of be that unifying force.
And what about water? I mean, in some municipalities or some local regions, water management is a huge issue. I think everybody's learned a lot about the damages that are the losses from leaks. So is leak detection, water management, getting hot water on demand, are these areas where you guys are playing a role depending on the client's interest and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the conversation that we're having with our clients is on the topic of wellness, which for us is lighting, air filtration, water filtration. When you have a mechanical system and you have a technology expert involved in helping call for the temperatures in the home, and if or when something doesn't work right, who should they call and in what circumstance should they call that trade? And a perfect example that we ran into recently is this client had a whole bunch of bunnies, like rabbits, and it clogged the mechanical system, but they call us first. And that's not a problem. We're there to be a great resource and partner, but I think it's just important to make sure the clients know how they can get a hold of everybody, as these systems are maybe, to our case, third party with controlling a mechanical system versus, supplying it.
All right, let's keep going. Electrical contractors. This is a long time contractor interface because we need to plug in low voltage stuff. And you guys need power for the systems to be in the right place, but there's a whole hell of a lot more to it now.
So once we've got the system designed, we understand what we're doing. Now we're getting into the nuts and bolts of the actual installation side of it. And without direct collaboration with the electrical contractor, none of this can work. So we look at our ECs as true partners to us and partners to our business, because we can't do what we do without them. So at least for us, in our perspective in the markets that ACS is in, we're not licensed electricians. So we can't touch a line voltage piece of cabling, which means that everything that we interact with in one way, shape, or another has a line voltage connection to it, which means we need the electrician to take care of that element of it for us, whether it's the dimming feeds for the dimming panels, the fixtures themselves that we're providing, power for the racks and for the AV equipment. I could absolutely say that a good electrical contractor can make or break the success of a project. And so that's why we take the extreme care and we take the time to walk through the entire project with the electrical contractor, first on paper, and then we'll do a physical walk of the actual job site itself, just to ensure that there are any questions, any comments, anything that we need to pivot or amend. There's that open line of communication, because we could not do what we do without the electrical contractors.
There is an extreme reliance on the level of coordination between the low voltage contractor and the electrical contractor. And there's also a very important delineation between the mindset and the business level interest that the electrical contractor might even have on what's happening on the project. I mean, we've been doing lighting fixtures and lighting systems with fixture specifications since 2017, and in that time span, on one hand, and these are extreme examples. On one hand, I've had electrical contractors in our conference room throw their hands up and walk out of the room. They don't want anything to do with what's happening with the fixtures, the fixture technology, the panelized lighting, etc. And in other cases, I've had electrical contractors look at it and go, wait, so you're telling me because of these fixtures, there's less reliance on the amount of electrical infrastructure I have to put in place, and so I can get onto more projects and get onto the do more business. And so that's totally two different mentalities. The other thing that's so important about this topic is at some level, to Tom's point, there is going to be coordination. We are either going to, at a basic level, call for dedicated electrical circuits for amplifiers and other related equipment, or in more expansive scopes, we're going to be calling for what's happening in the lighting design, what's happening in the lighting panel, how it's getting connected. If they bid early in the project, let's say that the technology consultant was not involved or the low voltage integrator is not involved, the electrical contractors bid on a totally different set of plans and scope that's even happening. Then they're asked by the general contractor to go back and change it to keep up with what's happening because we were brought in late. It's complete insanity. And who's it doing a disservice to? The client. The client's budget is likely not going to be rectified correctly because either there's not enough time to get more bids, or the electrical contractor is just not willing to rectify it to reflect what's actually changed. And so in either case, bring everybody in early, coordinate early, figure out what the client's needs are, and everything's good.
There's definitely gray areas between the EC and the technology integrator, especially lighting and lighting control. Is this an area where the builder can play a critical role in helping everybody see the value that they add and the need for collaboration? Have you found that to be the case?
I mean, my short answer is yes, with appropriate mindset and education, absolutely. I think the builders and general contractors want to do that. We have to be sensitive to whether or not they're aware to the extent of which they're playing that role. I think that's very important to delineate.
No one's happy when the integrator gets brought in late. But the builder has the ability to change that. So that technology assessment form that Tyson's using is a great way for the builders to say to the client, hey, depending on what technologies you may or may not want, it's going to affect other trades. Please, tick off this check marks on this list and hand it back to me, and I'll give it to my integrator, and we're off to the races. You're doing yourself, your client, everyone a huge favor.
I think another one, and Tom, you might want to add to this, is when we are brought in early enough. The other challenge that we do have is to keep just the right amount of pressure and momentum on the situation, because I have also seen months lapse where they're then back onto the swimming pool and all this other stuff. And we're like, yeah, but we've still got this thing. And then before you know, we've lost, some precious time as well. So being brought in early is, I think, number one, and then staying top of mind and staying relevant and not forgetting the level of coordination that's required. It's just a constant round of communication for us.
And that's exactly right. And that's where the collaboration is with the electrical contractor comes into play. For us in New York City, for the New York City projects, oftentimes the electrician's actually pulling our low voltage cable for us. So even though we're designing the system, it's whether it be a union regulation or just a builder regulation, the electrician will, I would say, on almost 95% of our New York City based projects, the EC is pulling our low voltage cable for us. So our project managers are having near daily conversations with the electrical contractors.
All right, we're on the home stretch here, gang. Outdoor is becoming increasingly important. There are some exotic and normal specialty contractors outdoor. What are some of the keys real quick here?
Well, the outdoor space has become an extension of the home. So people are more inclined and are spending more and more time outdoors, and they want that outdoor space to reflect the same design aesthetic of the interior of the home, which means we're dealing a lot now with outdoor audio, outdoor video, certainly outdoor lighting. There is nothing that I think enhances the overall aesthetic and the curb appeal of a home than what the outdoor landscape lighting can provide for it. So when you get into spa, pool control, fire features, all of these kind of very cool, nuanced things that we can provide, we're integrating with all of them.
Is the timing on the interface with the other trades here kind of a little bit of a wild card? Is this later in the game and not as coordinated as some of the trades that are dealing with the structure itself? I don't know. I'm asking. It seems like it's a later phase set of projects.
I think you're probably right, but it does again depend upon the project and the scope. Oftentimes there will be a dedicated landscape architect, which is independent from the primary architect, right? So the architect of record may bring a landscape architect in, but not be directly responsible for their progress and their scope of work. So to answer your question simply, I believe that, yes, sometimes that is done a little bit later in the game, but that's where it gets critical, because we'll always call out conduit runs. If nothing else, you've got one chance to penetrate the foundation of a building. Let's get that done for the eventuality of something going on outside.
Tom hit another big one, which is lighting. Done early and done correctly, there will be options to put very nice, very specific lighting in steps or in egress locations or in flat work along driveways or pathways. And if it's later, then you're in the dirt and there's just no other option. Nobody's going to redo their flat work to have it done later. Outdoor living spaces with shades and enclosing those outdoor spaces. I mean, that coordination detail, it's not drywall, right? It's brick, it's stone, it's hard surfaces. And so those physical space allocations are extremely important. And anytime there's requirements for flame, whether it's a fireplace or patio heaters or otherwise, none of this should be an afterthought. This should all be well thought out. It should all be well understood how these systems are going to operate, how they're going to be controlled, and which trade or trades are ultimately responsible for bringing that to fruition.
All right. So the job site, we talked a lot about planning and design, and we're going to just real quick try to cover the job site stuff, which is critical as well.
There's two things I tell my team, which is, I kind of use like the McDonald's drive-through analogy, which is, you go, you order something, you drive through, you get to the window on the other side. That is level setting expectations. That is meeting expectations. That's not even exceeding expectations yet. And so there's an extreme amount of importance on just doing the job site work, getting the fundamentals, the 101 stuff completely perfect and completely just done right, because this keeps all these topics top of mind. Because what will inevitably happen is everybody thinks everything is well figured out, well coordinated, but ultimately maybe the architect had a conversation with the interior designer, had a conversation with the homeowner, something changed. And it has to circle back to any other trades that are touching that scope that are involved. And certainly it touches a lot of what Tom and I do, which is, we're controlling things. We're affecting the environment. We want to make sure if we provided a beautiful keypad to control something, that the patio heaters were not forgotten as an example, and some obtrusive plastic box shows up next to that beautiful keypad.
So I don't know how much this is a factor in the luxury custom market of your work management systems and scheduling software, builder portals. Are you guys interfacing with that on a more and more regular basis?
Yeah, we're seeing that on more and more prevalent, where you're having these unified platforms that are being utilized for job site maintenance. We're actually seeing an evolution on the general contractor side of more adaptation to that. It's no longer fly by the seat of your pants and say, hey, your job site meeting takes place at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody's packing up their tools, thinking about for the next day. There's a lot more structure going on, specifically in the luxury market, as the builders are a bit more sophisticated in the way that they approach their projects are. A key thing that we put together typically at the start of every project is what we call a responsibility matrix. And that really tends to help kind of steer the project as far as our integration, our involvement with that. And what the responsibility matrix does is it allows the various subs to understand where the intersection lies between our work and their work, and who's responsible for what and what coordination needs to happen. And that just becomes a really useful tool, because if you've got a project manager from our side or a field engineer that's on site, they'll be able to know who's responsible for what and who the contact is for that specific intersection of what we're doing with the other trades.
So, Josh, you talked about the long-term customer experience, what I like to call the crazy ant in the basement for the home technology industry. We haven't done as much as we should or can, or not all of us have done as much as we should or can in terms of supporting the customer long-term.
And that's where it all starts and ends, right? The relationships are built in the beginning when we're doing that initial intake with the end user. But the real success of a project comes when it's all said and done. So providing 24/7 aftercare, having preventative maintenance agreements, it's maintaining anything else. You're going to change the oil on your car, unless, except of course, you're driving an electric vehicle, but then you're still going to maintain the battery. There's things you're going to do to mean you're going to change your air filters in your HVAC system. The technology needs to be thought of in that same exact way. There's going to be firmware updates. There's going to be security patches on the network side. There's going to be all of these different things that absolutely have to be looked at and cared for. And the only way to do that is with an aftercare plan and an aftercare package. Every one of our systems comes with an aftercare plan for the first year. And what we like to do at the end of that first year, usually sometime around month 10 or 11, is we just start doing the reach out to the end user. Or if it's the homeowner or the property manager or whoever's running the house for the family, we'll reach out and just say, hey, just so you guys know, you may not have seen it, but in the background, here's what we've been doing for the last 10 months. Between our ability to remotely triage, remotely monitor, with some of the smart systems that we're putting in place, we'll often know that a device has fallen offline or something is happening before the client does. And that's really where that proactive level of aftercare comes into play. And I would say our success rate on re-upping those yearly contracts is nearly 100%, because it just needs to be maintained. The only way the system is going to protect the investment for long-term sustainability is by maintaining it.
I think the other point to touch on here is the fact that, we are talking about, care beyond closing. You want to make sure that you've got, ideally, like in the cases that we're talking here, there's aftercare support. There's, in our case, a dedicated client care team. We've got a client care director. We've got a dedicated client care team. So we are not pulling, technicians off of a new project to go try to service a project next door. That is completely unnecessary. We're there to make sure clients have a great experience. And I think if you're a client, if you're an end user or a consumer that is looking at all these things, this is the kind of stuff. This is the meat when you're looking at a proposal that may have 5% deviation between two bids. It's very, very often apples to oranges. It is rarely apples to apples. And so understanding why one bid is maybe more than another, or if they're the same range, just understanding that one may provide substantially more value to you. And that goes back to where we started to close the loop on this entire conversation, which is this client journey. And we've taken a page out of one of the most recognizable brands on the planet, which is Ferrari. And their cars come with a 7-year maintenance agreement of sorts. And so just like Tom and his company, we've adopted very similar philosophies in terms of what is standard with the systems when they are rolled out. And we know some of those winners. And so we've just included a lot of that stuff so that it's just a great client experience.
This is such a great topic, this about the documentation and support, because this is an area where there's been some frustration typically towards this trade about the companies that just install and leave. But you could see at the level of a great technology integrator like we have too, this is the expectation that builders should have of their integrator. And this is the ones that will thank you. When the builder refers an integrator like these two, the client will thank them for that referral, and as opposed to the builder getting those calls because the integrator's like, hey, this stuff doesn't work. Can you call them and maybe get them to return the call because they're not calling me? These are things that I hear when I interview builders and I teach builders some of the frustrations towards our trade. But this is the type of integrator that you want to work with. You can tell they're passionate and they really care about the client experience and for them loving the home.
Speaking of thanks, I want to thank all of you guys for your contributions to this session. A lot of meat on the bone here. We did get granular, and that's okay because it's a big, broad subject. And getting granular helps us really understand the true solves across the board. Everybody's contact information is up here, including phone numbers and email addresses. Two excellent companies, an organization that's really making a difference. And then we're here from Builder Innovator to try to serve as a resource and a repository for good education and information like this. So thanks again to the team. Josh, thanks for getting this kicked off with us, and Tom and Tyson for being part of the inaugural session, and we'll see you next time.